Hi there, Internet people. Today I want to talk about cicadas. Now, why would I want to talk about that? Well, it's because birds eat cicadas. And boy, do we have cicadas this year here in Summers County. They are coming up out of the ground by the billions. It's amazing. And that's a good thing. Why? Well, let's talk about that. First of all, cicadas are not locusts. Let's get that straight. Everybody calls them locusts, but they're not. You see, locusts have chewing mouth parts. Grasshoppers, for instance. And this is a cicada. They have sucking mouth parts. Coffee. You see, locusts and grasshoppers are not very closely related to cicadas at all. If you just take a look at the insect family tree, the cicadas are called true bugs, and they're really quite distant from the grasshoppers and locusts. The periodic or 17-year cicadas spend 17 years deep underground feeding off the roots of trees and shrubs. And then, like clockwork, they come up for a few days and throw one heck of a party. They molt their underground shells, unfold wings, dry themselves out, and become a flighted insect. They mate as often as they can, they lay eggs in the twigs of trees and shrubs, and then they die because they don't eat a whole lot in this phase of their life cycle. And when they do, it's plant fluids from twigs and stems of trees and shrubs, just enough to keep the party going. Cicadas do not prey on other insects. They are very unlikely to bite anyone. They don't suck blood, they don't transmit any known diseases to people or animals, and they do not possess the type of mouth parts that would enable them to consume plants in your vegetable or flower gardens. The females lay eggs in tiny slits that they cut in the twigs of trees and shrubs. This does kill the twig, and then the twigs start hanging in the trees. You can see them. It looks like this. We call it flagging. And when these twigs fall to the earth, the little grubs crawl out and burrow into the ground, find some nice roots to latch onto, and kick back for, guess what, 17 years. You'd think that they might do a lot of damage to their hosts, but usually it's nothing that the hosts can't just shrug off. In fact, for healthy trees, the pruning that the bugs do just allows the trees to bush out more the next year. So why are cicadas so important to birds? Well, it's all about the numbers. The periodic cicada hatch, and we're in the area for brood 9 this year. That's this in this picture here. There are other broods, and sometimes they overlap, so you can get periodic cicadas in more than 17 years sometimes. But anyway, we're in brood 9, and they're popping out this year by the billions. And when they do, it's just billions and billions of tasty, easy-to-catch morsels getting thrown into the ecology of just about all the wildlife. And it's especially good for birds because this is the season that they are raising their young. In fact, all insectivorous and carnivorous animals and birds in the hatch area can't even begin to catch up to them. So everyone prospers. The cicadas reproduce, and everyone else just gets fat. This year, things were a bit more critical than usual because the weather was sketchy, and it was constantly whipsawing back and forth between warm, cold, rainy episodes, and it was tough on insects. The insect hatches were late, they weren't bountiful, and then they were forced to die back. And around here, reports were coming in that migrating insect-eating birds that were moving north from South America were not finding food and beginning to starve. This, on top of the longer trend of global insect decline, could have spelled a bad year for the birds this spring. Just a side note, in case your local news didn't cover the subject. Insect populations are declining globally at about 1% per year, and this has been going on for the last 30 years. And in some areas, the declines are much, much worse. And as much as we all don't like biting bugs, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole about declining insect populations and how that's affecting global ecology, but suffice it to say that without insects, we're all toast. Fortunately, this year, the annoying screaming hordes of cicadas came on strong. We have noticed that here at Track, the songbirds aren't coming into the bird feeders as much as they usually do. And that's because they're pigging out on cicadas. Even our dog Hattie likes cicadas. Everyone does. I mean, mice do, chipmunks do, turkeys do, songbirds do, deer eat them. Even a big old black bear that wandered into our yard the other evening. He was just munching cicadas in the grass and licking them off the trunks of the trees. And when he got tired of it, he just lay down and took a break. And when he was done, he got up, sauntered off into the lower meadow, licking cicadas off the trunks of trees, and that's all he was doing, just eating cicadas until we couldn't see him anymore because it was too dark. So if you find yourself having trouble holding a conversation on the porch these days, just consider it a noisy restaurant, a crowded buffet, and a really good time, especially for the birds who are in a family way.
Good boy.